Viral video right there. Yeah. It's not medical. How to get a job. Just put that's only for your resume.
No, that's what I want to do as a job. Oh, Brian. It's like,
my hands are tired. Thank you. You do? No, come on now. That's good.
One time I had an interview, I see you have a musician. Who did you get certified by? It was in high school. I didn't know that.
I've heard another good thing too is like the Excel book that you can draw. I have the yellow book, so I want to check the black one. I've heard that looks really good.
I mean, I don't know that many black seems like a lot.
I think like these tests are on classes, they give you the opportunity to get them.
Is it in live too?
The full Microsoft.
Live? Can we see everybody?
Excel was one of the
Really? Yeah, I know one of the classes.
It should be able to get everyone.
Can you see?
Yeah. As long as Luke goes in a little bit.
No, it's uploading to YouTube. It's uploading to YouTube.
I want to try to study for that exam too.
Because I think the file's too big to send out.
that's what I like.
Did you get it in ninth grade?
Okay. Our group 3 is ready to present. So are our peer reviewers ready? Okay. What? Timekeeper ready? You know, somebody's so happy to do that job. Thank you, Leah. All right, no problem. Whenever you're ready.
We're Group 3, and this is our presentation about Abbvie, a leader in the biopharmaceutical industry. My name's Luke Poole. I'm majoring in data science and analytics here at FAU, and I've been researching the biopharmaceutical industry for the past month.
Hi, my name's Abbvie Presentation. I'm also a data science and analytics major. I also completed a data analytics internship over the summer.
Hi, my name is Brendan Nader. I'm also a data science and analytics major, and I've been looking into this for the past month.
Hi, my name is Adina. I'm also a data science major. I do neuroscience research, and I've also been looking at Abbvie for future careers.
Hi, my name is Brianka Russell. I have 5 years experience in market analytics and business analytics. And I'm also a data science and in business major, data science and analytics. So, by show of hands, who here has had a vaccination? Everybody, right? Okay, good.
What jobs are associated with the process of getting, creating and administrating a vaccine? Can you think of? Anybody? Yeah? Anybody? Yeah?
Doctor.
Yeah?
Anybody else? Take a wild guess.
Government facilities, like.
Diet professionals.
That's a good one,
Yeah.
Professor.
Well, there's actually hundreds, if not thousands, careers that actually contribute to this process, which we're gonna start to get into here.
As we look at the biopharmaceutical industry, we're all going to cover a different topic. I'll start with the introduction to the industry, then we'll talk about career opportunities, Abbvie specific company information, and then trends in the industry, finishing with some challenges facing the industry. This presentation will show you how data science and analytics is used throughout the biopharmaceutical industry, specifically looking at Abbvie. It is important before we look at the biopharmaceutical industry, its trends, and all of that, it's important to understand what biopharmaceuticals themselves are. Biopharmaceuticals are made from living cells like yeast or bacteria cells instead of chemically synthesized. This makes them fundamentally different from traditional pharmaceutical drugs. Pharmaceutical drugs are small, chemically synthesized drugs like aspirin that are simple in structure and easy to copy and manufacture. Biopharmaceutical drugs, on the other hand, are much more complex in structure, and copies are called biosimilars because they're not really the exact same and require much more extensive testing. Biopharmaceuticals are also much more specific in how they are used in the body. For example, antibodies are designed to target specific cells within a protein of a disease, instead of most pharmaceutical drugs, which just target the body as a whole. Some popular biopharmaceutical drugs are the COVID-19 vaccines, monoclonal antibodies, which can treat cancer and autoimmune conditions, as well as gene therapy treatments, which are used to help cure inherited disorders. Companies grow living cells in large tanks called bioreactors. These cells are engineered to produce useful proteins that are then harvested and purified into medicines. Scientists insert specific DNA into the bioreactors depending on what proteins they would like to create, like insulin or growth factors, which are used to help grow, divide, or repair cells within the body. A common use of these growth factors is gene therapy treatments, which modify or replace defective genes in the patient's body, or they insert the engineered cells to help cure diseases. Because the process to make biopharmaceuticals is so complicated, it is much more expensive, tightly regulated, and requires a lot more advanced technology than typical pharmaceutical drugs. Now that we know a bit about what biopharmaceuticals are, let's look at the impact on the health and society as a whole. Biopharmaceuticals are often the only options for those with rare cancers, autoimmune conditions, and genetic disorders. These products, like vaccines, antibodies, and gene therapy, save lives, reduce hospitalizations, and allow these patients with critical conditions to live longer, happier, and more productive lives. The industry generates over $450 billion annually, according to Statista, and continues to grow as new biologics are discovered. Because patents expire and competition is fierce, companies are constantly pushing for new innovations to develop new drugs and maintain leadership throughout the industry. Now we'll take a brief look at some of the history of the biopharmaceutical drugs. Really started in the 1920s with the creation of insulin. This drug really laid the foundation for the rest of biopharmaceutical drugs. It showed that drugs made from biological sources could treat diseases in ways traditional pharmaceutical drugs could not. Monoclonal antibodies are lab-made proteins that can go in and target specific proteins within the body. These treatments created in the 1980s allowed scientists to have new ways to treat cancers, autoimmune conditions, and many more. Today, many of the top-selling drugs throughout the world are biopharmaceutical drugs, like Humira and Enbrel. And the future of biopharmaceutical drugs lies in personalized medicines tailored to each individual, like specific gene editing or personalized vaccine treatments. There are many major companies within the biopharmaceutical industry. Many of these you've probably seen or heard of before, but I'm going to talk about 3 of them real quickly just to give a broad scope of the industry as a whole. First would be Abbvie, which is known for its immunology, the treatment and study of the immune system with drugs like Humira, and its oncology, the treatment and study of cancer with drugs like Skyrizi. Pfizer is another big company, best known worldwide for their vaccines. They created a COVID-19 vaccine, and they also treat other diseases, but they're best known for using new innovations and technology to treat the diseases very quickly as they pop up. The final company would be Roche, which really specializes in diagnostics, which are tests that doctors give to patients to figure out exactly what treatment they need. This makes them a leader in the personalized medicine industry and allows them to maintain leadership throughout the biopharmaceutical industry as a whole. Now that you know more about the biopharmaceutical industry, I'm going to pass it off to Tabby, who's going to talk about some career opportunities.
Alright, so I'm first going to dive into a broad sense of what these careers look like within this industry, and then I'm going to dive into 2 specific careers that you can actually look into as well in the biopharmaceutical industry. So this field is needed for constant solutions to medical issues within the field, and with that it creates in-demand opportunities for you to look into. With that though, it's not an easy field that you can get into. It's not like something you can just hop right in. There's definitely a lot of experience and knowledge that you need to gain in order to go into this field. With that though, there's opportunities for higher salary, and I know we all love more money. The second thing is that pertaining to all data analytics majors here, there are two main types of data analytics within the biopharmaceutical industry. The first being product analysis. With this, you're dealing more data-driven with the product itself and how it's selling, how it's performing with its patients. And then also performance analytics, where you're looking at the company as a whole. This has to deal more with the financial and business intelligence side of things. And then getting into the various locations and job types, you can get a job within the biopharmaceutical field anywhere in the world. They have locations all over the nation, including Chicago, California, Massachusetts, all the way to globally, like Madrid and Czechoslovakia. And even if you were not up for travel, there's also remote work for you to do as well. And even with that, you have full-time, part-time, and even internships that you can look into as well. So the first one, I'm going to start out with a base level of a career that you can look into within this industry. Is business and data analytics intern. With this, you are required to look at patterns, trends, gaps within a patient's data to understand how it is working within a product that that patient's taking and things like that. And then also you want to be able to take that data and create visualizations and reports to be able to present it to your team or company, just so that they're aware of what the data is doing then. Some qualifications for this: you need to be pursuing a bachelor's degree in data science and analytics, with also proficiency in Excel, Power BI, Tableau, and SQL. And also this internship, it's kind of nice, you do get paid for it. I know a lot of internships you don't get paid. The hourly rate would be $20.3 to $36.5, just depending on your experience and skill set then. The second career is a bit higher in the chain than within this industry. It's the Associate Director of Analytics and Data Science. Now with this, you're going to be communicating with other people in the company about your market insights within the industry of how it's doing compared to other companies. And then you also want to be able to conduct investigative analytics towards consumer and competitive insights within the industry, just to know how it's actually working. Some qualifications for this: you need to have a bachelor's degree in a data science or related field, if not a master's degree. You also need 10 plus years experience in market research, data science, and using analytics in a professional sense, specifically within the healthcare industry. You also need to do 1 to 2 years of people management skills then too. Now with all these qualifications and extensive requirements, then you do get a big payout for it. You're looking at $137,000 to $261,000 a year, which I know we all love money. And now that you know a little bit of the career opportunities that the biopharmaceutical industry does offer, Brendan's going to take over and talk about a company that offers these then for you.
I'll be talking about the history and evolution of Abbvie, the products and services that they offer, and the size and impact that they have around the globe. Founded in 2013, Abbvie was originally Abbott Laboratories. They decided to split the company into two, one being designed for devices and diagnostics, and Abbvie would specialize in research-based pharmaceuticals. They first came up with Humira, their flagship product. It was once the world's best-selling drug as well. Their major acquisitions are Allergan. Allergan came in 2019 for around $63 billion. It brought over Botox in any of the aesthetic market. Cerebral Therapeutics came in 2023 for around $10 billion to help strengthen the neurological department, and Immunogen to help strengthen their immunology department around 2024 for around $10 billion as well. Humira, like I said, was once the best-selling drug in the world. In 2022, they profited around $22 billion. Now last year, they were just shy of $10 billion, made around $9 billion. This medicine helps with helps with arthritis, psoriasis, and Crohn's disease. Skyrizi and Rinvoq are also immunology and oncology medicine, helping with immune system dysfunctions, and the two combined made around $15 billion for the company. Botox, I'm sure everyone knows Botox for its therapeutic or for its aesthetic needs, but I'm sure you didn't know that it could help with muscle spasticity and even migraines. All in all, the products with the aesthetic products brought in around 1.5 billion. Vraylar is a neurological disorder medicine. It helps with schizophrenia and bipolar disorder, brought in around $1 billion for the company, and Abbvie brought in around $2 billion, helping those with blood-like cancers. Now they have 55,000 employees and operations in 170 plus countries. Their headquarters is in Chicago, Illinois, but they have operations all around the world, from Europe to Asia, doing anything you could think of, from research to manufacturing and even distributing. They make around $60 billion annually, but they take 7 to 8 billion of those $60 billion and reinvest it back into their company with research and development to help create more medicine and innovate new ideas. Now that you've learned a little bit about the company information, I'll be handing it over to Adina to talk about the industry trends.
So companies in the biopharmaceutical industry, they're kind of taking like a two-pronged approach to finding and maintaining a customer base. First, they're prioritizing biologics because there's huge profits there, but those are also very expensive to produce. So they're finding more customers through cheaper options like biosimilars and generics. And so another trend in the biopharmaceutical industry is that there are growing production facilities in Asia, specifically in China and India, and that's because of the economic development in the region, specifically the growing middle class in the area. And then another trend is like biopharmaceutical companies learned from what happened during COVID, the supply chain issues. So there's a switch over to automation and single-use systems. Single-use systems are disposable, single-use products and parts, and they're a lot cheaper to use instead of the traditional stainless steel. They're also really easy to set up and disassemble, which causes companies to use fewer product-specific factories, which allows them to adjust their factories based on what medical trends are present. And then the biopharmaceutical industry and the pharmaceutical industry are known for all the mergers and acquisitions. There's so many mergers and acquisitions here because of the competition for patent rights over medications. Lately, however, there have been fewer but larger deals, and these deals have taken place later in the research and development stage of different medications, which reduces risk for the bigger companies because they don't have to put as much money into like setting up clinical trials, setting up a lab, and then it not going anywhere. A quarter of all mergers and acquisitions have to do with oncology and immunology drugs, and Pfizer is the company with the most mergers and acquisitions lately. And then now that we covered trends in the industry, Brianka's going to cover challenges facing the industry.
Thank you, Adina. Quick question. With a big company, can we all agree that that comes with big challenges?
Yes.
Yeah? Right. So Abbvie was not excluded from big challenges, especially when they decided to merge with Allergen. So one of those issues in particular was the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, decided to look into the merger in 2020. And it found that there were 4 major companies offering therapeutic drugs, and Abbvie and Allergen happened to be 2 of those 4. So it would have made them responsible for 95% of that drug within the industry. Wouldn't we say that that would provide some competition issues for you guys? Does everybody know what antitrust laws are? Does anybody know what antitrust laws are? Okay, perfect. So we know that an antitrust law protects us as consumers, or at least it stops big companies from monopolizing, right? So what the FTC wanted to avoid was Allergen and Abbvie being this big monopoly and reducing our competition as consumers, our right to buy drugs, right? Where we get our drugs from. So the FTC said, we're gonna fix this. you can merge under some conditions. One of those conditions was divesting of their assets. So divesting of their assets included Zenpep, Viocase, and Brazi Kebab, which you guys are going to hear me refer to as Brazi throughout this presentation because the Kumab part always throws me off. So I'm gonna call it Brazi, okay? So divesting of those assets, Nestle Health Sciences were one of the companies that Allergen sold their Zenpep and Viocase drug to. We all are familiar with Nestle, is that correct? When you hear the word Nestle, what do you think of when you hear Nestle?
Chocolate milk.
Chocolate milk, anybody else? Candy. Water, right? So they conducted an investigation into Nestle as well before they acquired these drugs to make sure that they were capable of taking on biopharmaceutical drugs because they're known for things like cocoa and water and all these other things, and it was found that they were capable. So Zenpep and Viocase were sent over to Nestle or sold to Nestle. With Brazi, AstraZeneca actually owned the rights to Brazi originally, and Allergen bought those rights from AstraZeneca. And I believe that was back in 2016, if I'm not mistaken. They bought those rights from AstraZeneca. And with the merge, the FTC said, okay, this is gonna be one of the companies that you guys are gonna have to divest. So they went back to AstraZeneca and they said, hey, we'll give you the rights back. AstraZeneca said, sure, no problem. However, you're gonna be left holding the bag for that. So Allergen was still responsible for the research and development cost straight out to the end of the development of Brazi. And that leads me into our next challenge that we faced, a financial challenge. Research and development costs are crazy expensive. Can you imagine being responsible for the research and development cost of a product that you cannot profit from because you no longer own the rights to it? So, and that's just one product. We're not talking about all the thousands of drugs that they offer as a company, but the cost associated with investing into something that they cannot ever profit from. So that was a financial challenge in itself. Not to mention government price control. Abbvie is a global company. In places like Canada, in places like Germany, there's price control on what the drugs can cost that they offer. In the US, there's not necessarily a cap that's set, but the government can negotiate. Aside from that negotiation though, there are laws or acts in place like the Inflation Reduction Act that causes Abbvie, when they're priced over a certain amount, when their drug is priced over a certain amount, to pay rebates. So Humira was one of the companies, or one of the drugs, that was picked for paying rebates to Medicare for being priced above inflation. So that cost them money as well. Humira was a top performing drug, and with the rebates and with the patent expirations that my esteemed colleagues talked about earlier, that caused a lot of money for the company. We'll go into the next slide. So we talked about competitors as well, or other companies in this industry. We're not gonna talk about the big names, the Johnson & Johnsons. We're not too worried about those guys. I mean, it's a thing, but we wanna worry about the people that can create this drug at a fraction of the cost, the biosimilars, the generic brands. And when the patent expired on Humira in 2023, it opened the door for generic brands to come in, like Sandoz and Sun Pharmaceutical, to come in and make Humira, so to speak, at a fraction of the cost. So that caused a hit to their profit as well. Go to the next slide. Data privacy. How many of us can agree as well that when you merge a big company like Abbvie with Allergen, there's some privacy issues with merging those two businesses. There's some complexity to that. It's not an easy task. Again, it's a global company, so this creates vulnerabilities. This creates gaps. This creates an area for there to be a problem. And this is one of the problems not just Abbvie faced, but in the industry, this is what biopharmaceutical companies face. Same thing with data complexities, unifying policies, programs, and procedures, integrating databases. It's not something you can get done overnight. Also the morale issue. When you're merging two companies, you may have to let some people go. You're gonna have to downsize, you're gonna have to lay off, and this also caused a problem for them. So we did, again, discuss data science in biopharma industry. We discussed the finance, BI, and data analytics careers, as well as the challenges. We also gave you an Abbvie overview of the company, and manufacturing and marketing trends. We do want to thank you for taking the time to listen to our presentation, and we're going to open the floor for questions at this time.
I had to write it down so that I can like actually remember it, but I've always felt a little bit hesitant about the idea of working for like pharmaceutical sales, I guess, because it can seem like heavily profit driven, like as like someone who created half of the price for the same drug essentially. But overall, what are some reasons a person might still find this field fulfilling or ethically meaningful, I guess?
I'm going to pass it over to my colleague Adina, as this is a company that she aspires to work for. So
Yeah, I would say, I think if you want to do research, if you get involved in research, specifically medical research, which I've been involved in for 4 years since I was 18, you kind of have two avenues. You have big pharma or you have academia, and with academia comes like the trouble to find funding, the constant grant writing. Also, the current administration makes finding funding a lot harder, and like I'm in a lab right now, and like animal studies aren't given money anymore, so like we deal with that. There's also like the pressure to publish, and also you have to teach, and it's harder. I think it depends on like if you really love research. Like for instance, I really love research. I used to be a nursing major, obviously not that anymore. I think you have two options. You could do industry or you can do academia. Academia is good if you're self-driven, creative, and you're willing to put in the work to be a PI and have your primary investigator and have your own lab. But industry, I think, is good if you just want lab work. I mean, it's the ethical dilemma is obviously a thing, but like engineers have that, like Lockheed Martin, like Texas Instruments style. But I mean, I don't know. Can't beat them, join them.
I want to actually piggyback off of that. I think honestly, if you are passionate about helping people at the end of the day, and that's what Abbvie does, is that they find drugs and vaccines and all other kinds of solutions to medical issues that can definitely benefit you. Say someone is going through cancer and having that company and that industry to lean back on for that kind of thing, I think is very rewarding in that sense.
Yeah, I think I'm just biased with like drugs, I guess.
Yeah.
Like,
Understand.
It's understandable.
you take more of a holistic
integrative, I
approach
guess.
to things.
A
Okay,
little bit holistic.
Okay.
So
understandable.
yeah, but you guys answered it very well.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I know it was mentioned that Asia's a growing market with this industry, but would you be able to elaborate perhaps more locally where someone might need to work or where there are opportunities to work with this kind of industry?
With this kind of industry?
I mean, they're available everywhere. When I was doing my research on the careers, I was looking for data analytics specific, and I was finding options on LinkedIn checks. Like I was seeing all the global options, but then I was seeing the local options, and they were available. They were wanting applicants, and that's big for any of the positions here at Abbvie. Just waiting for those positions to be filled. But like I said, it is a difficult field to get into and to have those qualifications. I mean, 10 plus years if you want to get into higher up in the chain. So it's definitely something that you have to work towards, but there are options out there for you throughout the nation.
And I could add on to that, there's also like many companies like headquartered in the US, like there's Eli Lilly in Indianapolis, Merck in Atlanta. In Maryland, there's, gosh, I forgot. But there's like companies within the US, there's plenty, like almost every major city has a hub of some sort. And in North Carolina, there's Eli Lilly also, so.
And if I can add as well, and while it is a big biopharma company and we're talking about the science of it, there is the analytics side of it as well. These big companies do have corporate sides that you can work for, the business analytics side, so it's not just all the scientific, in the lab, all that good stuff. The data analytics portion of it is still business analytics. So I think there's a lot of opportunity on either side of the coin.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Abbvie also, I don't know if you touched on it, I think you did, but they offer like analytical internships as well. Okay.
Yes, the first job career that I mentioned was the business and data analytics internship. That actually starts for 2026. And it's
that's
open
for
for
new grads too.
yes, it's open for Well, it's only open for undergraduates right now, who are pursuing a bachelor's degree in data science and analytics, but it is open right now for applicants.
In my experience, every major pharma or biopharma company, they have early career, like talent acquisition stuff and internships. Some are remote. There's like huge amounts of data science, data analytics, BI, biostatistics. Like if you know how like a couple programming languages and like statistics, you can kind of push your resume in what direction you want. with
Not
those
to mention,
opportunities.
not to mention the information security part of it too. They still have important information they have to protect. So there's so many different fields within. Any other questions?
Yes, I know you said earlier that Abbvie was allowed to merge with another company after, they had to agree to some stipulations, but you had said that there was 4 companies in total selling that drug. How would you speak to like the health of competition in the industry right now?
Well, that is a great question. When you say the health of competition, right? There's a reason these are big biopharma companies. It takes a lot of investment in order to do what they are doing. The amount of competition is not as extreme as bread on a shelf, right? However, that's why we have structures in place like the FTC to make sure that a company does not monopolize, to make sure that there is some competition. Even though there's only 4 or 5 major people providing, you still have options between all 4 or 5, not just 1 or 2 providing one specific drug. So I do believe that it is still some healthy competition. Again, even with the patent on Humira, they were able to maximize revenues for years on Humira. But when the patent expired, that opened the door for biosimilars and other generic drugs, which gave us more options as the consumer as well. Again, providing more healthy competition. And you saw all the names that Luke presented on as well. There's a whole lot of other companies that are not just big names like Johnson & Johnson's. It's a whole lot of them. Mine are smaller in between.
Copy that. Thank you.
Any other questions? Going once, going twice. Thank you all for your time and attention. We appreciate it.